Welcome, welcome.
Yeah. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Good. Well, C3, could you do the honor of introducing yourself for anyone who is not familiar with yourself and your work?
Sure. Uh, I'm an Iranian artist that does political art, and here we are. I usually do political themed pieces, almost
Amazing.
always.
And everyone can walk around and kind of see some of those pieces. Can you kind of tell us about how you got into digital art?
Yeah, I did physical art whole my life, and as you can see on the walls, especially the ones on the right, that those pieces were usually acrylic on canvas, and I just did those in life. But maybe 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I saw an X copy piece, and I told to myself that I should check NFTs, and I actually did check NFTs, and they were great. And I saw NFTs as a tool to get my voice out, because I cannot, do my pieces inside Iran, because they are heavily political, and they have a penalty to do pieces like this in Iran. And so I used the anonymity and the blockchain to get up here and tell my stories.
Amazing. And we're so glad that you found NFTs as this medium. Bef- Before we kind of get into that, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like when you were creating art? And were you always sharing things on a global level, or were you creating protest art locally, kind of knowing that, the repercussions of what might happen if people found out?
No, not globally. I did it for myself and my friends, and I did graffiti art on the streets. I was always, active on political level, and I sort of a political activist. So I never showed my pieces to a lot of people in real life, because I knew there would be consequences if I did so. So NFTs are the first time that I'm sharing these pieces with the world, and fortunately for me, some people find it good and are sharing that journey with me.
Definitely. Can you kind of I feel like, people may not fully understand the kind of risk that you go under just to, create the pieces of art that you do. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about what it's like to live in Iran, present day, what it's been like over the last couple decades?
Yeah, Iran is ruled by an Islamic regime, and it's a very Orwellian regime that does a very draconian rules inside Iran, and always keeps them that way. So it's like every Orwellian and dystopian story that you heard or saw in your life. But we keep going, we keep our spirit, and so we make our own worlds inside this dystopian world. Everyone creates this micro.
Let's walk into this room on the left. Is there any particular piece over here that you want to talk about, C3? There's a bunch that we could talk about, and I think a lot of them are, quite heavy, and have a lot of meaning. But I'm curious if anything over here in this room on the left is special to you that you want to talk about.
Is that you mean the room where the black and white pieces are in
Yes,
the
I'm talking
room?
about the room where you see
Lucifer and Eve. I have Lucifer and Eve in the back. Yeah, but
exactly.
we on the right side we have the Ascension piece, which is about an execution. Maybe we can see and talk about that.
Yeah, Ascension over here on the wall on the right.
Yeah, Ascension uh, is based on an executed person, which is being hanged, and I always see that when that happens, when a protester gets executed in Iran, I always see that as leveling up, not going down. And that's why I kind of made that character levitating towards up, and called the piece Ascension while he is being executed. So that's that.
And
And here,
audience question
yeah,
around coronation of the Outlaw King.
sure. Coronation of the Outlaw King.
Yeah, they've Unchained Ninja asked, can you talk about coronation of the Outlaw King?
Can I talk about it? This piece is based on revolution, the Islamic revolution of in Iran that happened in 1979. You know, the piece itself is called "The Coronation of the Outlaw King." I saw that event in Iranian modern history as the turning point. Everyone sees that as the turning point in our faiths, and it kind of for people who don't know Iran had a king back then. It was a monarchy, and these Islamic protesters opposed him. And the plan back then was to overthrow that old king and make a free democracy in Iran. That was the plan, and that was promised back then. But when it happened, extremist Islamists took over the revolution in Iran, and they put up a new leader who essentially works as the new king, which is way, way worse than the last king that we had. And they started to throw, over the mass of people who slightly opposed them, and they killed everyone, and still killing everyone in here. So that was the coronation of the outlaw king. Back then, they were the outlaw people who rebelled, and in the name of the new future and a bright future, took over, and they kind of made it 100 times or maybe 1,000 times worse than it was before. So it's about the revolution of Iran in 1979.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, even as you're kind of sharing these stories, I think it's pretty hard to imagine, what it would be like to live through and experience some of those things. And if one thing I also want to say about this piece too is that it was I believe your first piece with AOTM, right? Or at least one of the.
Yeah, yeah, it was my first piece on AOTM, and I love, because I love AOTM and I love VVD and you guys. I wanted it to look grand, so kind of a grand scene in a play. So I tried to look at more big and crowded, and like a big scene inside a public square that show of force was happening.
Definitely, the use of, both the size, the colors, I think really kind of helps highlight the, really imposing authoritarian nature of what rulers are like, which is really kind of impressive that you've captured that all in something that, to a naked eye looks quite simple.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to take a moment and say hi to Sir Baharat. He's writing in the comment section, and I wanted to say hi and thank you for making this happen. He's a big part of On Cyber, I think.
Yeah. Hello to the whole oncyber team. We only have a couple minutes left before we go run over to Zook's gallery, but I'm curious if there's anything else either in this room or the other room over on the other side that you want to talk about. Any other favorite pieces or any other favorite pieces
Sure,
that
let's. I would like to talk about the piece beside the coronation of the Outlaw King that has a female character in it. I called it Eve, you know. This one is actually about the current uprising and revolution that is happening in Iran, and it's a women led revolution. And the motto for our revolution, our new revolution, is women, life, and freedom. And I did this one for that. And I called it Eve because I like the mythology a lot, the general mythology, and I used Eve as the first woman to oppose the power figure or the authoritarian figure in human history, and told a very big fuck you, and did what she wanted to do. So that Eve piece is about the women life and freedom that is happening actually in Iran, and it's about the uprising of the women of Iran.
the amount of courage that these women have in Iran is remarkable. I think everyone in Iran, but especially the recent wave of protests that have been really driven by women, and I think women around the world have kind of echoed. It's been beautiful and remarkable to see. Um, Really quickly, I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you this before we headed into the portal. What advice do you have for other artists? There's a lot of different creatives in this room, people who are looking to express themselves and all sorts of different stories that they have, both of their own lives, generational things that have happened to them, their countries, their homes, other creators from all over the world. And so I'm curious, kind of what your advice is for other artists.
Uh, let me. There's someone that is asking that. I heard these waves of protests are generally Western backed disruption, and I assure you that they are not, and they are very, very deep in our roots. And every person in Iran has had enough of these people, and it's one of the best and most natural uprising or movements that I have seen, and which is amazing to see the bravery of our people and especially our women in these past few months. So that is definitely not the case for the protest to be Western-backed disruptions. And about your question, you asked what advice did I have?
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you for clarifying that piece around the protest. I think that's very
Mhm.
helpful for the audience. But yeah, my question was
Yeah,
around advice that you have for artists.
sure. I always tell people that actually sit down and figure out what you want to say. What is the general theme or general message you want to get in outside the world, outside into the world. And when you actually sit down and figure out what things or what messages are important to you personally, and you know them clearly, and try to do pieces that clarify that message, and try to sort of have a kind of storytelling that is uh, connected every piece is connected to a narrative, a bigger narrative that you see, artists like Sam Spratt are doing every day, and they have a huge success. That is because of the beside the extraordinary talent that Sam has. The most important part in his art is that it has a very big single narrative and story that is always pushing. And you can see people like Sam Spratt and know and learn from them. You have to have a single narrative or very few narrative or themes that you like to put out, and you do your best to connect those pieces, every piece with prior piece, and try to stay on the course and find the people that are actually interested in that story. So that is maybe the best and most important part of doing things in life or in art in general. I think because people actually, I don't know, maybe few or maybe a lot of audience, but people actually find those things, um, so it's a
Definitely,
really good place to start. Yeah.
definitely. Well, thank you so much,
Sure.
C3, for sharing
Sure.
that,
Sure.
both, the advice and the stories. I think your commentary kind of provides its own portal into the lives of, people all around the world and what they're experiencing. And so thank you so much for sharing that. And also thank you for your bravery in creating these pieces, especially in an environment where, it is incredibly dangerous to do so. It is
Thanks for having me, Georgia, and Cyber and AOTM friends. Thanks for having me.
awesome. Thank you. It's our pleasure to work with you. Um,
Well,
It is time to walk back over towards the door. If you follow over towards the left, you will see this magical portal, which will take us over to Zook's gallery, and we'll have a conversation with her next. And so, yeah, press E to enter. Um,
great.
Thank you. So cool. Thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed this place. And before it was really so cool. And I glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for, um, I'm being up all over the world to join this. We're super excited to be in this gallery, which is a totally different vibe than the last one, in terms of, the energy. I actually think these are, quite poetically. These two conversations are kind of poetically placed back to back because this one, a lot of your themes around freedom, around expression, around beauty, etc., are things that in C3, just by comparison, are not, or are subjects that are kind of
Yeah,
repressed.
and it's amazing that we have so different spaces and like different feelings. It's cool. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, can you kind of introduce yourself and give a little background on yourself for anyone who's in the room who may not be familiar with
Yeah.
yourself and your work?
Sure. So okay. I was born, in a family of artists, and I was surrounded by creative art atmosphere. So, of course, it's affect me because my grandfather was an artist, my mom, and also I continued his craft. And I decided to become a continuation of a dynasty, but not at the beginning of my life. Because I finished art school and become a honorary member of the Union of Artists in my country. But later, I got interested in music. So, and I started to spend all of my time learning how to play saxophone. And it's took really a while. So, and I also have started performing, and sometimes it was 10 performances in a week. And I really love that. I love that energy what stage and people gives me. But yeah, but one day everything changing. So I got to the Venice Biennale with a creative team, and I saw a lot of art there, and those were the best artists from the world. And I just felt that the visual art has captured my inner world again. And I just remembered how rich my family art heritage was. And, I just thought that I didn't want to leave it, and I just want to continue to do that. And I promised myself that I will come back here as an artist, and I will represent my country with my own art. And I was super inspired. I returned to my homeland, and I began working so hard. And sometime later, I really kept my promise and I presented my art installation at the 59th Biennale. So it was really great. And from that time, I started to make my career professional. Yeah. And that day was really very important for me when I just realized that I don't want to lose it. And also, I want to tell, many people asking me about like Zhuk, is it pseudonym or something like that? And I'm just telling, no, no, it's just surname of my dynasty. So it's a real surname what I'm using. So now everybody will know that Zhuk is not just pseudonym.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You know,
Yeah,
I think it is remarkable how much that Venice show kind of really marks a change in your life. It sounds
exactly.
like it was one of the most impressionable moments, not only when you were, seeing it for the first time, but then also to have that as such a tangible goal as an artist. Like, I will be exhibited here with many of the greats. It is very cool that you kind of got to come full circle on that.
Yeah, because it's just when you are there and you see so many art and it's so great, and you know that this is the best artist from the world, you just think, oh my God, I want to do something also. And you're just inspiring and you have goal. And I'm so happy that I did it and I presented my installation. So it was painting, but with the murals, it was a very big installation. Yeah, and I am was so like happy that I did it. Yeah, that day was really very important.
Mm. Talked a lot about your family and how that whole several generations of creatives have influenced yourself as an artist. And I'm curious, how you cultivate creativity in your own life. Like, how do you find the inspiration, just kind of that creative itch? How do you find that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's really, I was really surrounded by the atmosphere from the childhood. But maybe it will sounds very cheesy, but I absorb that from life and people what gives me. So this is art, travel, meetings, sometimes. And some meetings can change your mind and show you some new world vision. So, and I also really like to look at the same things and see them differently as I get older. It's every time interesting to see how your mind changing and see how you change. So this is really helped me improve myself and gives me, like a food for thoughts. So I can say, yeah, this is kind of my, this is how I cultivate myself. Just, it's just life. Yeah, I just take it from the life.
Yeah, I mean,
What's surround us, just nature, music, travel, this everything, thoughts, how it's changing. Like, yeah. And I try to, when it's changed, I try to, to understand myself better. And then I just create some work and I try to put it in my artwork. So kind of like that.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, everything in life is really around connecting to life, life source, these moments of creativity, and it kind of is this thread that I feel like is woven through everyone. And it's cool to see how various artists pull out their essence into their pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
I think that it's a good segue in terms of some of your themes. You've painted and created a lot around the themes of freedom, around beauty, love, which is, the most recent AOTM piece that you created. Can you kind of tell us around, like, what are those personal mottos and philosophies? And, they're kind of seen all over this room.
yeah, I will try to explain my meaning. I'm just think that the life is not so easy sometimes, and we don't live in a fairy tale. And in my opinion, art should give us an inspiration, hope, and love. So the artists, musicians, poets, and others people of art, they're kind of past feeling that their work live in us. So I just want to give the viewer a feeling of this lightness and this love, and try to give this hope, because sometimes it can be immersing with the viewer in the reality of that's happening, which may not always be positive. But at the same time, I try to give them a light and the possibility way out of it, because I believe that the world is sometimes full of difficult, and art should be, kind of therapy, and it should help us and just make us believe in the best. And also, I believe that every single person needs support, because it's an irreplaceable source of energy that makes it possibility to accomplish, the most important things in our life. And when I just hear that my art gives inspiration, or when people just share their stories with me and tell me that my art helps them, I'm feel so alive myself, because it gives me a lot. It's just gives me inspiration to do more something. I think it's very important, just to help through the art to the people, give this inspiration, give this light. That's why I always try just to make the first I feel it, and I just want to transfer this for the viewer. I think that's important for every person.
Yeah, and I think you've done an incredible job of doing that.
Thank
Can
you.
we kind of dive into some of these pieces? Everyone's staring at the first two here. The one on the left, I mean, actually both of these I love, but the one on the right, dualism, I think is really powerful. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about what dualism is about?
Yeah, sure. I can say to in general, without thinking about any specific word, just to imagine you why it's water, because you can see that I use the water element. And the fact is that the water is the basics of the bird, and it gives us a feeling of this lightness, this freedom, security, and connection with all the energy of the earth. So water frees us from, unnecessary noise and negativity influence around us, and it gives us the opportunity to concentrate more on ourselves and to learn ourselves even better. And I think this is what we really need. And all this express in the idea of life, its constant change and the dynamics of human relations. So that's why I'm using water. It's like uh, element of the birth. And when we starting our journey, we are coming from water. So that's why it's can make us feeling more mm, more carefully, you know, something like that, security, more security. And these feelings when you just when you can feel only yourself, to understand yourself better, because you don't have to see a lot of noises, everything. This it gives you like a freedom.
Definitely. Yeah, water as the kind of great cleanser. It is freedom. And, I think I mean, water has a lot of connotations, but I think, especially in the context of your work is really around kind of that idea of like rebirth, freedom.
We also have in our body like more percent it's water, so water it's really very strong element in our life.
Definitely. Yeah, it is absolutely critical to the human experience. You see even babies getting drawn to water from
Yeah,
pretty much, I mean, you get born from water, and then I guess, it's kind of a theme throughout life,
yeah, it's true, it's true.
which is interesting. Are there any pieces in this main room that you want to talk about? And, I could call it a couple, but I'm curious if you have any that you in particular want to talk about.
I just want to tell that every piece is like about the you know, carry about each other. For example, if you will see Gaela is two women, and one woman just try to help another just to go up, and like it's more about for helping, for this, for support. And yeah, and some pieces you can see where it's just one person who is in the freedom, who is just, you know, abstract for everything, just with his mind. And you know, different people can see different things, and I really love when some viewers start to telling me what they see there. And it's every time interesting, because sometimes I have my own meaning, but when people start to tell, you know, I see there, for example, I see there this, and I say, oh my God, it's so cool. Because, for example, I had another meaning, and I say how people start to open, and how their mind working in different way, what they see. And I really enjoy when they talk about like that they see how they're, you know, how they start opening, how they have a lot of thinking, like the waters make them calm, this everything. And it's really enjoy, because it's always interesting to see the comments from the viewers.
Definitely. What do you think about, kind of water being also punitive beyond just healing?
Can you repeat, please?
Water kind of being, like there's I feel like there's many different types of water. You have like a really cleansing, calm, peaceful, soothing theme, and then on the other end you also have water which is like powerful, which is, potentially like scary, negative, vast, etc.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not always the moment when everything is great. So sometimes I'm just showing maybe some, I don't want to say negativity, but some maybe problem situation, but always try to show somewhere, you know, in the corner, or somewhere, some light, to show that there is the way out. So with this kind of colors and everything, I try to show the topic, like what I want to say. Like maybe it's some you know, a very strong moment, or sad moment, or problem moment, or just, you know, calm moment. And that's why I'm using different water, different colors, just to transfer for the viewer this energy. And I hope they feel it.
I think they definitely feel it. I feel the reception to a lot of your pieces is quite universal in terms of people really, I think people kind of being awestruck and, moved by it, and really taking a moment to pause and think about their own lives and reflect, which I think is one of the more powerful things that you can do as an artist is to make people reflect on themselves and what's going on in their own lives.
Yeah.
On this room on the right, if you walk into it, there are a bunch of really beautiful pieces here. We've got a piece called Spiritual Freedom, which is on the left, which is absolutely stunning if you walk up close to it. And I'd encourage everyone to kind of really study the detail. You've got a piece called Flying over on kind of that wall straight ahead. And then there's also this piece called Freedom.
Yeah.
On the right, I think NorCal guy owns that piece, if I'm mistaken.
No, it was my first piece, Genesis on Super Era. It's Get Collector, which calls Pam. And yeah, this is the woman, very freedom woman. And that piece was really make for me big step in the NFT world, because it was the first on the Super Rare, and at that time this piece had a bid war, and it was really very fantastic, and it's kind of changed my way, in NFT world.
Definitely. Yeah, you're talking about Spiritual Freedom, which is over on the left. Yeah, that piece certainly made a big splash when it came out, and I think really kind of launched what has been an amazing NFT career.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This time really used a lot and changed. Like, it's a really amazing place. I'm really happy that I joined to the NFT world. It's really amazing.
We had a question from the audience, which is, how are these paintings made?
Oh, it's like most of the painting is just oil on the canvas. So it's handmade, but sometimes I just scan them, and if I think that I want to do something more on some programs, I can do it, or the painting that it's alive, like motions, so I can use some programs, but most of them it's just canvas on the canvas.
Of course. Thanks for asking the question.
Yeah,
and we have another question from the audience as well, which is, who are the subjects of your pieces? Are these self-portraits? Are they? Yeah, who are those subjects?
Mostly it's just my imaginations, but sometimes when I'm just thinking, oh, I need some position of the hand, I can make the reference of my hand, use it. Yeah, but most it's just coming from my mind. Yeah. But sometimes I can use some I can say people, but some elements, and sometimes I use my elements, like my hands or my head. I don't know if I really needed like a reference.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Thank you for
a bunch of interesting questions. I wanted to make sure that we got to this one as well, which is, if you were to talk to a younger version of yourself, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, I will have said everything, like, everything is fine. Believe in yourself, love yourself, and do not be lazy. And, I would not be correct myself, because mistakes educate and make us better. So I will not just, correct really myself. But no, one thing I will tell to myself, it's like, girl, do not spend money in vain. Just collect and buy yourself some bitcoins.
Some Bitcoin?
Yeah, maybe these things I will tell. But in other, no, I will not correct, because we need to have mistakes. It really helps us to grow up.
That is so true. Yes, if there was a time machine, it would be to go back and buy as many Bitcoin as possible.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Yes, you're right, and hold them till the very end. But yes, I like your point, which is around, the mistakes are part of the learning. You're not meant to have everything go up and to the right all the time in life. Like your human experience is to experience, the lowest of lows and the highest of highs, and to learn from those, because the sweet moments are all that, you know, much more
Yeah,
sweet when you have the pain next to them. So, um,
right.
completely agree. We only have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to ask you, just for all the other artists in the room, kind of what is your advice for any emerging artists?
I will be little short, but I just wanna say, just for the artist, just to try to find yourself, because it's very important. And if you did, try to keep it, and develop yourself. And art, is about feelings, and if you put them into your work, they will definitely be felt by the people viewers. And the main thing, of course, is believe in yourself, because everything will work out if you will believe and work hard. So I think this is my uh, I don't know, it's, yeah, kind of advice, but yeah, I think the most important is just find yourself, keep it, develop, and just to put all your feelings, to be open, and to transfer to the viewer all your feelings. They will feel it, definitely they will feel it. So, and to believe. Yeah.
There's a
It's
couple layers to even just what you said there, which is like to to be able to transfer those emotions and feelings to people, you need to understand your feelings, and that in and of itself is something that is so difficult for people, because oftentimes, people ignore, they put everything on the back burner, they can't identify. But and really, like, part of what you're saying is to have that intense self-reflection, and to look inward before you share outward, and how that reflects itself in your work.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important, because like, people of art, they are just showing, and for the others people, and they're transferring this feeling. And sometimes when I'm just going, or walking on some exhibitions, but it's just my meaning. It's I don't know, maybe it's good or not, but it's just my meaning. And when people, some artists transfer, very dark works, I mean, without any hope, or you just walk, and when you go out, you feel yourself not so, shiny, not so like inspiring. And yeah, I just think that we need to understand ourselves, we need to know who we are, we need to just try to, the first is to understand us, and understand what we want to give for the viewers, because it's very important what we give. We can't just give what we want, because it's very because it's um, like, we need to know what we give for the
Mhm.
people. Yeah.
Definitely.
And yeah, that's why the first we need to understand ourselves, and then just to think what we want to give for the people.
Amazing.
And if we will put all these feelings, people will feel it. So we need to try to make it like a, how I told, like a therapy or something like that, because art is different, and art is amazing, and art can really help to people. And yeah, it's like a artist, it's kind of like a doctors, too, because doctors make really very serious work. And this is kind of the same. We also we play with the feelings of people. If it's
100%.
I don't want to say bad, but it's kind of like that when we listen to music or we watching movie or we watching at the painting. So and we should play good
Yeah.
because it's the people's. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing,
Sure.
for talking about your pieces, your philosophies. This has been amazing, and it's an honor to be here with you. It's an honor to work with you at AOTM. We're incredibly blessed.
Yeah, it's super great. I'm really happy that I'm the first of all, I'm the part of our team gallery, and the second that you asked me to come here, it's a really very great place. Thank you. Thank you for having me.